All right, hello everyone. I got it all sorted out, I think. Let me know if you can't hear me, but I'm pretty sure that it's working correctly now. Sorry for the delay there. This is our Fantasy Grounds map and image creation, and I'm Josh. And this is the Saturday stream where we go over all of the art-related news as well as any sort of upcoming things. We demonstrate the tools inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity and how to use them. So this is the last of the streams for this year. So exciting. And then we'll be moving on to the next one. So thanks everyone for joining me today. Yeah, it's great to have you all here, and we're going to be going over some of the stuff. I thought what we would do today would definitely be working on some maps and some different techniques. One of the things that I like to do is to use the tools inside of Fantasy Grounds to come up with satisfying and easy to follow steps by which that you guys can recreate things if you ever need. These things can be done on the fly. Everything does get updated in real time to your players so that you can manipulate lots of images and whatnot on the in the play area itself. So that's always really great. As well as lots of tools to your disposal for painting and creating images beforehand, so that you guys can have a massive amount of control over what you're doing. One of the things that I thought that we could go over today is some of the different ways that you can come up with very easily some neat kind of. Classically, you would imagine them to be a difficult thing to achieve on images, especially if you don't come from an artistic background. But inside of these tools, it's pretty simple to kind of control a lot of this stuff. And so we're going to go over a couple of those things kind of today, some use case scenarios. And we'll be able to kind of integrate that into our map making. And so hopefully you guys can follow along. And if you guys have any questions, if I do something that you're not exactly sure how I did it, because I use a lot of like shortcut keys and whatnot, just let me know. And I'm happy to explain. So let's get right into some of this stuff. And we started to kind of go last time that I streamed, which I didn't stream last week, but the week before, we started to make this frozen lake map. And we did some of this kind of stuff, right, where we made it seem as though certain things are stuck down into the ice and whatnot. And so one of the things that I was thinking about is like doing reflections and whatnot, right? So let's say we had water here. We wanted to do some sort of reflection. How would we go about doing that? And it's pretty easy to do inside of Fantasy Grounds. So let me just... let's go into our images here. I'm going to create a new one. And we'll just pull this out over here, something like this. And we can get rid of this window now. We don't need it. We'll stretch this out so we have a nice little area to work on here. And I'm going to go into my grid system. I'm going to change this to 100 by 100. And then I'm going to lower down the opacity of my grid. So the way that the tools work, they integrate very well into the grid system. Fantasy Grounds kind of uses the grid system by which many of the controls are set up with, right? So, for example, if we were to go into, and we're going to be using some water elements here, and I think we're just going to go into the 2019 art package. So let's go into our images. And this is a pretty general use kind of art pack. So pretty much anything that you need to do outside location, you can make with the 2019 art package. We have a whole bunch of different tiles here. Now these can be just dragged and dropped out here. As long as it's the same kind of color, it'll match up. So if I were to drag out this grass and this one, for example, you can see that these are going to be seamless and match right up, right? But we can also use these in our painting area. So I'm just going to delete those. Anything can be used across the board here, right? So there's no distinction between like the particular types of images and what their use case scenario is. So you're free to use the different images in the painting system, drag and drop them as tile elements onto the workspace here, the image workspace. So there's a multitude of different ways, and it kind of opens it up for you guys to be more creative. And there's always additional use cases that you can kind of achieve here. Now, because these are seamless textures, we can also use them in the painting system. So I'm just going to switch over to my rectangle. The stroke option would put a line around it. So if I were to leave this on, for example, and we switch this over to the fill, and we're going to grab maybe, yeah, why don't we use something like this? And I'm just going to drag and drop this right in here. Now, you can see that I have a stroke on here. So I can control the size of this by using the control button and the mouse wheel, right? So I can make the stroke that I'm going to be putting around this change based off of those parameters here. We also have corner types, so we can round the corners or we can miter them so they're angular. And we can also do a beveled corner here. So depending on what you're trying to do, this is going to change how that works. So I'm just going to do with a mitered one right now, and I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to be actually using a stroke on this particular one, but just so that you guys have a good understanding of this, you can see, and I'm holding down control, so it's going to snap to my grid system. And you can see this is going to put a nice border around that. And we might want to use that at certain times, but in this use case scenario, we really don't want that. So we're just going to turn off our stroke. And you can see now, if I hold down control, we can snap this out. And we can have this image out here without having any sort of border to it, which is what we kind of want here. So you can see that this is a seamless texture. If we go into our edit fill, we can move this around, right? So we can set this up to anywhere that we wish. We also have a whole bunch of different controls here that we can use, right? So if I use F, it doesn't work appropriately right now because it's just a square. But if we were to come over and do something like this, rounded shape, and you can see I could fade out those edges to make this kind of like a fuzzy ball here, which is great for lots of different ways that we can kind of interact with that. But we can also change the way that the system is using the fill type on the inside too, right? We can use control to scale the image up and down, as you can see here. We can also use shift to change the angle of it. And we also have control over the color even after we put it down. So we can use R, G, and B to change these colors. So I can make it completely black if I wanted to, holding all three of those down. R is just going to interact with the red, G is just going to interact with the green, and B the blue. So we can control this even after we put it down, and the alpha channel as well. We can fade that right out. There's lots of different ways that we can kind of interact with this so that we can alter it to whatever we need to do. And you'll see that using this system becomes extremely powerful just with this simple fill element and these controls that we can do with it. We can basically pretty much create anything that we want to. Now inside of here, what I really want to get to is to show you guys something really super simple here. And let's say, for example, we have a nice little water element here. And why don't I just switch over into my edit here, and I'm just going to grab these and hit delete and get rid of that. Now we can go back into here. I'm going to go to my stamp tool now, and inside of staying inside of the FG Art Pack 2019, I'm going to go into my decorations, and inside of here we have a whole bunch of different pre-made kind of decorations here. And let's say, for example, I want to do something like let's just grab like this bush here, this tree. And I'm just going to drag and drop this out into my little stamp window here. And now what I can do is I'm going to create a new painting layer. So this is going to be an additional layer on top of that. And this is the layering system is what's super important, right? This is what allows us to interact with different elements and control, and we can put things in between them and do all of these sorts of things. But if I were to stamp this out here, and sometimes we get a little bit wonky on that, there's a little bit of a bug there. So if you ever run into that, all you have to do is just close it and reopen it. And let's go back to the this image here. And a really good way, what I like to do is I'll just take this and I'll drag it down into my hotbar in case I run into a bug. Sometimes just refreshing that window will help us quite a lot there. And now let's go over into here. Let's drag and drop this again. I'm going to rotate it, and we're going to do something like this, right? Now doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense right now, but I'm just going to show you some really cool kind of ways that we can interact with this system and allow us to do things like reflections and whatnot. So in this water down here, we might want to have the reflection of this, right? And we can do that a couple of different ways. Now, if we just rotate it and going in the opposite direction, you can see here, then that's not going to quite match up the way that we want to, right? Because that's not really how the reflection is going to work. So what we actually want to do is we want to have a similar version of this that kind of is reflected down into the water itself. And we can do that by going down here, and then we can, well, let's do this. We'll create a new painting layer because this is going to make one that's right above it, right? And so if we have another one down here like this, all we have to do, and we could do this with a multitude of different objects here, is go into our color picker here, and then we can just lower down the opacity of that. And you can see how this is going to become much more powerful because now we can add an effects layer in here. And then if we add in our water effect here, and here we have our water effect. And now that we have it over that other image, we get a really good kind of indication of that being built into that system, right? Where it's being reflected back at us. Just by using the same exact image. And you can do this on a per layer basis, right? So let's just delete this. And we'll delete that one as well. We have our little water system set up here. And now what I can do is I can create a new painting layer. And let's say I want to do like a whole bunch of different things, right? And depending on how these things are going to be set up, you might want to do some minor adjustments with it after the fact. But let's go into our stamp tool here. And we'll grab some rocks, right? We'll make a little rocky thing over here. And I'll use some of this to kind of blend the gap there a little bit. So we have this nice little rocky element. And maybe we'll do a smaller one over here. And we can start to build these kind of complex systems here, right? So, and again, maybe we'll add in something like this. And we'll put this guy like hanging out over the edge here a little bit. So what we've done now is we've created a very complex grouping here. And we might want to now be, oh, I would really wish that I had done some sort of reflection or something along those lines. Well, all we have to do is we can duplicate this, this whole layer itself. And what's going to do, it's going to duplicate everything that's we've already put there. So let's duplicate that. And now we can drop this down into here. We can go into the layer side over here. Now, if I hold Control, I can use my buttons here, my arrow keys, to move the entire layer without snapping to the grid. And then also in this entire layer, I can lower down that opacity. And I've done exactly the same thing without having to do any more work than I had done previously in the creation of that system, right? The water is a little bit too much. Let's go into the effects layer over here, and let's just bring down some of these a little bit here. So maybe the intensity here, we'll drop that down, and the speed as well. So it's a little bit slower, something like this. Now, if we want to go in and do further adjustments to this, let's say that we want to move some of these individually, we can just come in here and we can actually move these a little bit individually to make a little bit more sense for the reflections. But it's something that you can do very easily, and there's many different little tidbits like this that you can kind of achieve some really cool looking effects without having to do any extra work, really. So again, we can come in and we can make some adjustments depending on the height. You might want to have things further or closer. But all of these things are easily adjusted and can add a whole new layer of dynamic elements to your system here. And because we're doing these on the layer-based system, right, we can come back into here and maybe we're going to go into, let's see, I think we have, What do we have in here for decorations we might be able to just grab and... Let's go. I'm going to go all the way back up into here, and we can go into the coastal map pack here. We'll go into our effects, and we have this little splash. So with a new painting layer up here, what I can actually do is if I wanted to do a little bit added stuff on top of here, I can lower down the opacity here a little bit, and we can add in some of that water interaction around this as well. And because we're using, just rotate this around and we'll just add in a little bit of stuff here. You can see that this is going to layer right on top of that exceptionally well here. We might even want to go down into our water layer here, and we can darken this up a little bit. To maybe something along these lines, and really begin to customize all of this stuff. And you can see with very little effort, we can start to make some very convincing looking elements in our maps. Now, one of the other things that is completely usable inside of Fantasy Grounds is that all of these tools are able to make not just maps, but you can make handouts, excuse me, any sort of image element that you would need in your games can be created right inside of Fantasy Grounds. Excuse me while I have a sip of my coffee there, clear my throat. Now, does anyone have any questions about that, or is that pretty self-explanatory, these kinds of things? And also, is there any use cases or elements that you guys can think of that you might have wondered how you might achieve that inside of Fantasy Grounds? Well, if there's no questions about that, let's continue on here. And if there is something, please just throw it right into the chat. I'm happy to kind of go off in here. Now, again, we're going to go into, I'm going to go back into the 2019 art package. And we'll jump back and forth between this and the coastal one, I think, because this will be a good representation of some of the elements that we can kind of do here. Now let's go into, that's the module here. So let's go back and go into the actual art package. And again, I'm going to go into one of these tiles. So here we have some nice ground, right? What I'm actually going to do now is we can go back up into this top layer here where we have these elements. And we'll go back into our painting area over here. I'm actually going to go to the line tool. We'll turn off our stroke. And we're going to switch over to the fill elements here. And I'm just going to grab and drop this right in here. Now from here, what I'm actually going to do, well, actually, let's do a rectangle. We're going to create a little beach on this side here. I'm going to show you guys some of the use case scenarios for that, right? And I'm actually going to hold down Control, and I'm just going to snap to the grid here, and we'll pull out a little bit of, I guess it's about 4 squares wide, but we'll follow it down. And the reason why we're going to start off with our rectangle is so that we can completely interact with this system and have it line up perfectly on the back side here. We can move this in and out, and we can change this dynamically as well. But now all I have to do is I can go into these different overlap elements. So we have the add functionality, and we have the subtract functionality. And all of these can interact together with this, right? And as long as we have the same exact setup, this will add to this, right? So if I change something in here and this does not match up, it will not add to it. It'll create a new element every time. So in this new add element, I can switch back to my line tool because all of these will work together, right? So if I grab a circle and I drop it here, you can see it's just going to make this part of that whole element here, right? So all of this becomes the same singular, I guess it's the image element itself is its self-contained little element, which all interacts unanimously together. So if we go over into our edit mode, you can see we could move these around and we can change this. And this is all one system here. Likewise, if we go into the edit fill, we can move this around and it's all one consistent shape here. So let's go back into here. Let's go into the line tool. Excuse me. And so what I can actually do with this, same thing. We have the add selection still connected here. We can start to build out any shape that we want to. So I can build out these kind of random shapes to do something like this. And you can see it's all going to add together. I can also switch to the subtraction method here, right? And I could, well, seems that because this is all on the same thing, that this is going to interact with that a little bit. So we won't use our subtraction on here. And this is another scenario where you might like, oh, I wish I had these two separated. Now, how would I do that? All I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, duplicate this, right? I'm going to hide this one. So we're going to make sure that it's not visible. We'll go back down into here, and I can just select all of this stuff and just delete that one particular aspect. Then I can turn this back on. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete these ones. And now we have these completely separated here. So now I can come back into here in erase mode, and we can come in and erase whatever we want to, right? So we can make whatever shape that we wish. Now, the reason why we might want to do that is because now what we can actually do is we can bring this back into our edit fill area over here, and we can now fade this out. Now, I'm not going to worry about this stuff too much right this second, because what I can actually do, excuse me one second, I just have to clear my throat. All right, we're back. What we can actually do is if I come back in here, let's put this fade back to its normal area over here, right? I can do a couple of different things to maintain this element right here. And we could, in fact, we could duplicate this once again, and then come into our rectangle tool, and with our subtraction method here, I could subtract out a section of it, right? So if we go over to here, you can see that this is just right here, and that's going to fill up those areas. And then I can come into here, and I can fade this out without having to worry about losing this edge. And now all I have to do is, and I'm actually going to click on this, and we're going to simplify. Let's double click on one of these to select them all and simplify that. So it's a much simpler shape for us to interact with. And all we have to do is to grab these and then pull this up to something like this. And we can go into this one, and we can pull this out. And we can do something like this, and we can get a nice little faded edge here. Now, because these are all on the same, they're creating the same kind of image, but they're on separate layers here, so we can interact with them differently. We might want to do something along the lines of create a folder and drag these and drop these into a folder here. And the reason why we do that is this basically, the folder acts as almost as if we've combined those two layers without actually having done that. And so what we can actually do is use the folder in the layer system, just like they are individual. We could do it individually, but as a folder, we get to use all of the different parameters for the entire grouping of layers that we've put into that folder. So if I come over here and if I decide that, oh, I want to change the colors, I can now interact with this system as if it is one layer. And I don't have to worry about trying to maintain that across all of them. Now I can do all of the same kind of things that I was doing before, right? I can, because this is the layered system here, and here we have these, the rocks and whatnot. Here we have the effects layer, and here we have the reflections, and here we have all of the water splashes and whatnot. So I can come in here, and you can see we have a little bit of a And so now, because I've moved this, right, I don't have this anymore because I closed it and reopened it. I can just grab this little tool and click right there, and I can grab that image once again. So we can grab all of the different elements that we've already used on the workspace here. And I would be able to start to paint some of this stuff out. I think that these should be a little bit lighter. I can just delete these, and I'm going to lower down the opacity a little bit more. And what that fade is going to feel like is though it kind of fades down into the water, right? Now, what we can do is see we have this same underwater, not underwater, but the reflection area over here. We can kind of use that in addition to this, right? Let's say, for example, if we wanted to duplicate this entire folder, we can. And this is going to duplicate everything that's inside of the folder as well. Now let's drop it down. We can put it down, let's put it down something like this. Again, we're going to our Layers tab, and if I use the arrow keys now, what it's going to do is it's going to move this out through the system of the grid system. So every arrow key is going to move it one grid. Now let's interact with this. We can do all of the things that are inside of our folder at once, and maybe we can darken this up and lower down that opacity. And I think what we'll do is we'll go into this one here, and let's actually go into our tab here. And I don't even think we need this particular element, so we can actually just delete that layer. And here we have this nice kind of like gradient and that we can interact with as we can pull this out or shorten it up here. I think we can just get rid of these. I think we'll drag this out a bit more, and we'll increase the fade here. And so we have this nice little gradation as it kind of goes down in underneath the water here. And we might even want to make it a little bit darker as well. So we can go into this fade and we can do something. You know what I think we should actually do is make it a little bit bluer so that it interacts. And so now we have this nice kind of element that gives us that inclination that there is the shallowness of the water here is allowing some of that to kind of shine through. And because this is a non-destructive way of interacting with these systems, we can always come back if we decide that, oh, no, we want it to be lighter there. We can come in and do this as well. And because this is all underneath our effects layer, you can see that this all, and as we zoom in here, now you get a really good look at see how this feels as though that we have some transition here. We have some nice little interactions here. Oh yeah, we can do a nice little Jaws scene. But here are some really quick and easy ways that you can interact with your systems and without having to do too much extra work, right? It allows you to experiment, have fun, and not have to worry too much about duplicating a lot of work. It's all been taken care of for you inside of Fantasy Grounds. Oh yeah, you're currently going through a mod and layering the DM map assets onto the player's map. Yeah. So you're basically using the single map and having like a GM only layer with all of the GM stuff on it. Is that kind of your go-to there? Which we can talk about that as well. Yeah, well, you don't even have to turn down the opacity. You can just hide it from your players. There's lots of different ways to kind of interact. And one of the things that we have here is if it's shared with players or not, or if it's visible. And so, yes, you can. Let's say, for example, why don't we just demonstrate this really quickly as well? I'm going to do this with a painting layer. You can do this with any number of layers and any way that you want to do that. My preference is to use painting layers because they're so versatile. But let's say we have this map and we want to have some notes on here. We want to do some stuff. We can do all of that stuff as well. Oh, you're just taking the whole map and putting it right on top, right? So if you're making your own maps, though, and you want to do this, all you have to do is click this button, right? So this is now a GM-only layer. The players will not get to see this, right? And if we go into, let's go all the way up to here, we have an art pack that is GM symbols. So that we can actually set up our little notes and whatnot and do all of the different things that we might want to do here. So I'm just going to go into like the symbols themselves. And this is really great too, because let's just go into our image creation. So we have I use a separate one to create different elements here. Let's delete all of that. So here inside of the GM symbols here, we have a couple of different things. And I'm just going to, let's drag and drop this out. You can see that this is like a, for like futuristic kind of things. And here is a nice little, kind of burst in the background here. And we can go into our symbols here. Let's drag something like, if we were doing like a overland map, we might want to use something like this. We have all kinds of base letters and whatnot. So if you ever want to create something, you can do this right inside of Fantasy Grounds, and then you can just export this, right? You could create your own elements right from this stuff here. And here we have some that are all kind of set up. But let's say you want to do your own, right? So we have all of our base numbers here. And we can just drag and drop these out, actually, into their own separate layers. So we could do something like this, and then maybe we want to do something with a background to it. So maybe we're going to use this one. Right, so now we have our base little element set up here. We can go into, we can change the size of these. So if I hold down Shift and I grab this, it's going to maintain the size ratio here. We can also create like arrows and do all of these different stuff right inside of Fantasy Grounds, right? So let's say I want to make this one. We're going to make this, let's make it red. But we'll make it like a little bit of a darker red. And then maybe we're going to do The background, we'll make it kind of like orangey. We'll lower down the opacity a little bit. And then our ring, why don't we make our ring like, and you can also just click in here and drag around. So let's do something like this. And if you ever decide that you want to copy this, right, we can just hit Control-C and copy the hexadecimal code. And we could come back in here and we can drop it in here, do that. And then maybe we want to do the background image here. Maybe we want it to be a little bit lighter, something like this. So here we have our own little token or symbol that we've just created here. And then we can export this, and we're going to get a little pop-up here. I'm going to save it as a PNG. Actually, let's save it as a WebP file. And I'm just going to save it as, we'll just call this 1. Yeah, the hex code. So now what I've done is I've actually exported this. So if I go back into my assets here, right, and we go into my campaign data, which is where it's stored, and I just refresh this, here it is. It's a symbol all ready to use, all in its own. And so now I can come over here, and on this layer, and so I could create my own little tabs. And so maybe I have number 1 encounter. It's going to happen over here, and I can just stamp that. And you can see that this is not shared to the players. They're never going to see this stuff. Only the GM is going to see that. So in your own maps, you can create your own GM layer, and we could just call this GM layer so that we never get confused. And we could even group all of this stuff together in one folder and call it like the player folder or whatnot, so that we know, have a good separation between all of those things. But let's say, for example, as well, on this GM layer, right? So let's go back into the GM symbols here. If we were to want to even, do any of this stuff, we can do it as well. If I just wanted to start to stamp these things out, and I wanted to maintain some sort of continuity, maybe there's we're going to put all of our little elements on here and whatnot, and we're able to, create all of these different systems all on our own. Just like that. And then we can also have all of the same controls over here, right? We can change these colors. Maybe we want them to be darker or whatever we want them to be. And again, yes, we could lower down the opacity and have that all unified. And again, this is our own private little GM layer. You can put all of your notes on here, anything that you find to be helpful for the play session that you don't want your players to be. Maybe there is a trap somewhere or something, and you just want to put a T. So all of those are available to you. Do you guys have any questions about any of that stuff? It's all pretty self-explanatory. We're just kind of going through all of the base uses, some advanced kind of techniques to add a little bit of extra dynamic stuff to your maps and whatnot. So this is a little bit more of a instructional kind of thing than usually just making the maps. But we'll be diving in here shortly and just start making a new map as well. I think that what we're actually going to do is kind of build some cool stuff for our the seeing as how it is the winter time of year for us in the northern hemisphere. We'll in the holidays we'll do something fun with the frozen lake that we had started. Great. So I'm going to close this down. And we can close this. We can kind of just remove all of these things for our little image creation space here. Yes, we can just back up. So we'll just go here and go into our images here. Let's pull up that frozen lake. So we're going to add on to this one a little bit that we started making last week. We used a lot of the same kind of techniques that I was just demonstrating there, like how we made these elements look like they're going down, frozen down into the ice itself, with lots of bits underneath, things kind of poking up out. We did some nice little texture changes and whatnot. So I think what we're going to do, because this month's art pack release was steampunk vehicles, I'm going to be doing I'm releasing, and then this January's release is going to be another steampunk one. We're doing a series of steampunk art assets. And so I think that we'll do like a steampunk sleigh today. We're going to create that. And I'm going to do that mostly in the image creation system here, my little image creation workspace. And we're going to build this out, and we're going to export this as our own particular image, and then we can just use that whenever we wish. So we'll spend a little bit of time on this creation process. And we can even build particular parts, right? So one of the things that I like to do, and this is how I oftentimes will make these art packs, are things that work as a good conglomerate together. And with the new export feature, I guess it's not that new anymore. It's been out for a while now, but it allows us to build our more complex images and then save them in our own personal library, right? So then that's kind of what we're going to be going into today. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create like a base for this element, right? And depending on the size that we want to do it and whatnot. But we're also going to be creating some individual little parts. So some of these elements, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of collage them together and then export those and then use those as a base to create more and more complex images. And I'll kind of show you how this works. And you can do the same thing with like rocks and bushes and anything that's in nature or anything really, and create more and more complex kind of systems based off of the things that you've already made, right? So as an example of that, let's start to put some of this stuff together, and we'll start to build these groupings that we can save for later use, and we can use them at any time, right? So let's say, for example, we're going to do, we'll grab one of these tanks as like a baseline, right? So maybe something like this one. Now in this workspace, it doesn't matter if we paint it or if we drag it and drop it out. We have kind of total control over it. I tend to paint it because it keeps things a little bit neater in the way my head works, but you guys feel free to do it any way you wish. So let's say we come out here and we do something like this, and I'm going to hold down Control so it snaps to the grid, right? So we have this like base, like tank here element. And we can use a lot of these things in different painting layers to go above and below this, right? So I'm going to do another painting layer that I'm just going to drop down in underneath. And I'm going to use this under it, something like that. And then I'm going to begin to build out some of these elements here. Let's bring this around this way. We'll grab some of this stuff. Let's bring this down to like something like that. Yeah, it's like that kind of mishmash of yep. Let's put this one down here. See how if you bounce back and forth between these higher and lower ones, you can get some really nice kind of layering effects. I think what we will need is something that will yeah, we definitely want to have some stuff that kind of like pokes out like this. We don't want to have too much of a squareness here, right? We want to be able to layer some things on top of it. Basically just using it as a background filler in through there. And we can jump back and forth between these two kind of layers here. And then we'll add something like right here. And you can see how these parts begin to build up on each other, right? And I think what we'll do is we'll just add in another little element over here. Let's actually use something like this. Yeah, we'll do it like this. And this will be a good one too. Whoops. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I think that's going to work out pretty well. So we have this nice little complex image that we've just created. And one of the great things about doing it this way is that we have the freedom to kind of add as much or as little detail as we want to, depending on the system that we're going to kind of create here, right? And what I'm actually going to do in this particular instance is let's add in some shadows and stuff as well. So I'm just going to grab this and drop this up here. And I'm going to hold RG and B. I'm going to lower down that opacity. And I'm going to lower down, I'm going to make it darker and the opacity. And I'm just going to start to paint in some of the shadows that will be cast from these little areas. Nothing too, what I like to call this is shadow confusion. What I actually do is I don't have any specific light source in mind. It's just generalized ambient kind of shadows, right, that are going to be it's like ambient occlusion in these little areas. And you can see that just adding a little bit here and there will just make this feel like an actual layered piece rather than just static kind of images on top of each other. And you don't have to be too exact about this at all. You just kind of want to be like randomly. And the trick is to make sure that your opacity is low enough so that you can kind of layer that on there. You can see that looks pretty good there. We could even do the same thing with highlights if we wanted to. So I could go in the other direction. If I were to make this like white, I could come in here. I would lower it even lower to be maybe something like this. And if I wanted to do like some little shiny spots, as you can see here, make that smaller. We could do some additional kind of ones like this. So this is where you can kind of have fun and just start to add in some little shiny spots. And we could change this. We could make this a little bit oblong so that we can do something like that. And there we go. We have created a little image here, a conglomerate of all of these things pretty quickly. And it's pretty complex, right? Now all we have to do is to export this. I'm going to export it as, let's do a PNG. And we're going to call this, let's see, SP for steampunk. And I'll just call it part 1. And boom, we've now exported that. So this is what we can kind of do now, right? Let's delete this. We can come back into our, I think it's in our campaign actually. So let's go here, campaign. And we can refresh that, and that's going to and here it is, the one that we just made. And we can actually just kind of drag and drop that out. And you can see that that's exactly what we had made previously. And now let's say, for example, and this is why this starts to become really powerful, right? Let's say that this was part of the engine and we want to build onto it further. We can use this piece and we'll be able to use this over and over again. So even if I were to grab and drop it here, like I could make this smaller and we could layer this lots of different ways. We could even start to build this, or maybe what I want to do is have some sort of symmetry here where we have this in conjunction with each other. Like this is going to be two sides, right? But this just allows us to build more and more and more complex images here. So let's go back to, we can just come here, go to steampunk. And in our decorations, now we can start to build on top of this single piece as well. And then export that. We'll have several different elements that we can consistently use in the future to make things really fast and easy for us, right? So like, let's say, for example, if we were to just drag and drop this out here, we can put this underneath, right? And this is, as you can see, instantly, boom, we're starting to create these systems by which that we can develop faster and faster creations. We might even want to flip it this way so that it's like here, and we can add in some additional kind of elements there. But I'm not quite ready to get to this phase yet. So let's just continue on with our little creation process here. I'm actually going to delete this one for right now, and we're going to start to build a new piece here. So basically what I like to do is I like to start with like a base, right? So I'll just drag and drop this out here, and then we can do like painting layers above and below it. And again, see, we could just throw this right on here as a new complex image. But we're going to start to build out some other stuff here. I think what we'll do is let's grab some of these pipe pieces, and you can see here that's going to create a new painting layer for us immediately. And I'm going to create another painting layer, and I'm just going to drop it down below so that I can start to do things above and below this piece to kind of create some stuff. And feel free to experiment, right? You want to make sure that you're having fun and you're trying stuff out and you're doing all of the different imaginative kind of things that you can come up with. I'm going to use this too, but I'm just going to use it for these lines down here. Let's do another set like right here. And let's grab this guy. Yeah, let's do it like there. So you guys have big plans for the new year? Anything fun going on? Good games or anything? You're very welcome, Drake. Actually use this one. let's grab, I think, let's grab this. And again, we'll do the same kind of thing that we did before. We'll grab our little stream PNG here. And I'm just going to make this dark and quite transparent. Oh, wow. That'll be fun. Let's do a little bit of this. And again, if there's anything that you guys have questions on or anything, feel free to ask. You can see that just adding this little bit of like shadowy kind of content here just adds so much. And again, we can do the same thing as we did before. We can go in the other direction. I'm just going to add a little bit more shine to some of these things. See, like this. Very cool. Now let's export this one. So we'll export this. And again, we will keep our naming convention here so that it all kind of goes together. So SP part 1, this is going to be SP part 2. And you can see if we go back into our campaign here and we refresh this, I can type in SP and here we have our two images that we've created here. And you can see that these are going to start to work really well together to make these super complex kind of things. Like we could even plug this into here or just layer them on top of each other, right? So if we create a new painting layer, maybe we're going to drop this like here. Or we could even line these up. And maybe we're going to do like some sort of like fitting right there that where they're all going to be stuck together. But look at this, how quickly we can start to create these complex shapes. And then we could even export this one now and have an either more complex shape so that when we go back to using these things, right, then the reason why I like to save these as I progress is that it allows me to start to develop my own library of images. And so that I can now create things so much faster in the future. And so a little bit of progress as you kind of go through this will save you an insane amount of work later. If that makes any sense to you guys. Any questions on anything that I've done so far? Oh, yes. All right. Well, let's do. I'm going to do one more of these, right? So let's delete all of this stuff, and we'll go back into our image thing here. We don't want to click on that. We just want to click the arrow, and I'm going to go to the steampunk area as well. Oh yes, the Avernus vehicles. Right? Isn't there like a whole like Mad Max kind of thing in that? Yeah. So let's start off with another piece. Like we've used a couple of those two larger kind of elements there. So I think that we'll go with, instead of starting off with a tank, we'll start off with let's use this. We'll kind of build something off of this. So let's go in. I'll use this this little like coupling again, and we'll put this like here. I'm just going to hold down Control so it snaps to the grid system. Meets. Uh-huh. Furious Max and the Meets. Sounds like a punk band from the 70s. And let's bring this down. I'm going to go into this brush. Yeah, I think we'll do something like that. Into our decorations again. Let's go to, let's go into my painting tool here. Actually, let's create a new painting and let's drop it in underneath. Also, if you guys have any suggestions on what we should be doing, or if you'd like to see something kind of created, let me know. And you can see how we're using a lot of the same pieces from the other ones as well. But as they're put together in completely different, they're organized completely differently. You don't have to worry about them seeming as though that they are in any sort of way related. They just seem as though that they fit together better. It's yeah, let's grab this. We'll put something like here. I think that there should be something that kind of sticks out this way as well. And break up some of these shapes here a little bit. Yeah, and then we'll put something on top of it. Let's go with this one. Let's grab one of these. Valves are always good. Let's put it on the right on the front of this one right here. Yeah, I like that. And then let's build, we can even actually grab something like this too. And then we'll add a little thing on top. That doesn't really work there. So let's just delete that. Maybe we'll do it higher. Actually, you know what? Why don't we do, and this is kind of what I mean about experimenting, right? Yeah, let's just drop that right there. That'll be good. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now let's do some of our shadow stuff here. I'm just going to drag and drop that there. RG and B to lower that down. And we'll just kind of drop some of this stuff in here. And I'm going to make it kind of oblong here. And then we'll go in the other direction as well. Let's make that nice and light. And then we'll do a little bit like here. Let's make it round. I'll just drop a couple of these in. Perfect. Now let's export this. And we'll again use the same naming convention. You can't see this, but I get a pop-up for exporting this. And boom, we've exported it. And now Let's minimize that. I'll just put it over here. Let's put it down here. Now we have our kind of frozen area over here. Actually, you know what? Let's just build out our whole thing here, and then we can just drag and drop it into our map scene. So now we can delete this. Let's go to our campaign data. We're going to refresh, type in SP, and here we have our parts that we have created. And look at how nice and complex those are, and how much easier it's going to be for us to just kind of drag that in and start to do that, right? So again, we're going to go back into our steampunk area over here. Well, there's actually a couple of different ways that we can do this as well. So if you want to, I'll show you guys. I'm going to go back into my campaign. Again, I'm going to type in SP for these parts. Now, you can see that we can use all of these elements at the bottom here to hold images for us. So I can just drag and drop these right in here if I wish to grab those later if I don't want to keep navigating back and forth. So now I can come back into here. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to go to images. And in here, now let's go back into our decorations. And I'm just going to grab like this chassis, which I can kind of start to build out here. I can also, if I want to, I could start to build my own and using some different elements. But we'll just start with this to begin with. And I'm just going to drag and drop it out here because we're going to export it. The reason why I don't drag and drop a lot of the images is because it's easier to control from the painting side of things, size, rotation, colors, and whatnot as I begin to place things. But if there's something that it also creates a lot of different layers because each one will create its own layer. But whatever is comfortable for you, please make sure that you do whatever your heart desires. And I think what we'll actually do is there's like this wooden table kind of element here. I think what we'll do is let's make this, and again, I'm going to make this one taller than it is wide. And if I hold down Control, I can kind of like snap this into place. Actually, let's put it on this side. Something like this, I think. And we might even want to make this a bit wider. So we can just kind of do something like this. Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty good. And so I'm going to create another painting layer. I want to have above and below this little platform here. So now if I come back into my stamp tool over here, let's grab this part. As you can see, I can just drop this right in here. Now, this is where this particular platform is here. And then we have underneath it as well. So I think what I want to do is I want to have this one on top. So I'm going to rotate this around, I think. Let's see. Keep hitting caps lock instead of shift. Maybe we'll make it a little bit. Let's do something like right here, I think. Or maybe, yeah, let's do it this way. And I'm going to bring it over a little bit. And let's grab this one, and maybe we'll put this underneath here a little. We'll put this like here. I think we want to even do, I'm going to put it right because this is the, so I think that, I don't know what I actually want to do here. Let's separate that. I'm going to delete that layer. Let's duplicate this. So that these two are separated. And then I think what I want to do is I want to put this underneath that. Let's actually flip it this way, I think. Yeah, like this. And then I'm going to use this back here as well. So I can flip it this way. And you can see what a complex creation I've started to make because I have these much more complex kind of elements that I've put together now. Yeah, that's looking really good. And I think what I'll do is let's just come in here, and I think we'll just line this up so that this looks like it makes a little bit more sense there. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we're just going to use this more of a background kind of image there. You can see we can move these kind of around here a little bit. So we get them right in the right spots. Yeah. Yeah, that's looking really good. Now what we can do is we can go into here and we can start to add in some of these additional kind of elements and build this up even further, right? We can start to really accentuate some of this stuff here. And I think what I'm actually going to do is let's jump outside of there a little bit. We have a whole bunch of modern industrial art packs. Let's go into just images. So we have the modern industrial stuff. We also have there's a lot of different elements, sci-fi and whatnot, that we can kind of conglomerate together. I think that this is all of the construction stuff. Yeah, so let's go back. We have like gauges and additional kind of pipe elements, but we have some kind of cool pre-made ones like these. And let's see how these kind of fit in here. So if I were to come down to here, and the cool thing about these being white is I can actually change their color here to match up pretty well with this stuff. I think we'll make it like this, though. We want it to be a little bit off. Something like that. And I think we'll flip it this way so that we get like this kind of stuff like sticking out. We're going to add in a little bit of stuff right there. And I'm just going to grab this hexadecimal code there because I can grab something like this as well. Nice. This is just going to be kind of like background stuff. And we have these cool brushes and whatnot so that we could always use this kind of stuff as well. Something like these might work really well too. I think we'll grab maybe like this. A little bit of this color. It's going to work pretty cool for us, I think. Yeah, let's do it this way. I think I want it to be below though, so kind of like sticking out from underneath this stuff. So let's create another painting layer and drop it down. Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. Let's go back to our steampunk one now. And we're going to build some of this stuff up. I'm just going to grab like something like this. Well, actually, let's kind of just do a little. We might even want to like line this up a little bit more with like this tank. And then we'll make this like a little coupling in there. And we could do the same like here. I don't want to cover up that stuff too much. You might want to do this one lower. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this and I'm just going to grab that image. And then I'm going to delete this. Go down onto this lower layer here. And I think we'll do it like here. Yeah. I like that. And then we can do the same thing on this side. I think what we'll actually do is let's make this a bit longer. Mm-hmm. And then we'll put like a seat here, I think, right? And then we'll create our like sleigh elements, our skis underneath out here. But now we can start to build up some of this other stuff here. So let's grab our seat and we're going to put that, let's create a new painting layer for that. So we'll just drop this right up here and we want to make sure that it's kind of above, but I like using the different layers so that I can reorganize them later if I need. So here we have like this kind of like seat. Let's do something like this one, I think. Yeah, I think let's put it like maybe like here. And then we could build out like the front, like a nice little shape out through here. And then we can add in some like coverings to certain areas. And then we can do a little bit above and below. What do you guys think? So now what I'm actually going to do to build out some of this stuff is I'm going to grab, we're going to use like a fill element, and we'll actually use like a stroke on it. So we can start to build our own elements. And at any time, what I can actually do is export this image so that I could, so like for example, if I decided that I don't want, if this is a good section right here, like this, for example, if I'm really enjoying this, now I can export this as well. And that is also saved in my own collection here, right? And as I begin to progress here, I can start to build up these more and more. And this is what I mean by creating like a more and more complex kind of system here. So again, if we go into here, and I'm just going to hit SP. Not SP plus. Here is this new element, right? And if I were to drag it out here, you can see it's a duplicate of that whole thing. And we have all of the different elements to it. And now we have our own elements that we can use over and over and over again. So I'm going to take a short break. And then when we come back, we'll finish this thing up, and then we're going to throw it into our map and add in maybe some animation stuff to it and whatnot. But so yeah, if you guys want to hang out just for a moment, I'm just going to refresh my beverage and stretch my legs for a moment, and then we'll get right back at it. All right, we're back. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Let's continue on this road here of creating this steampunk sleigh that we're making here, or sled. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to build up some of the like body parts and do the skis underneath and whatnot. And so we don't have any set images for that, right? But we do have a lot of different elements that we can do it. And let me just show you a couple of different ways that you can go about this kind of stuff. So if you go into our spaceship art package, there are a whole bunch of different pre-made elements here, right? And so we have hull parts, and these are kind of set up with metallic elements in mind. And they have a little bit of gradation on them and whatnot, which can be accentuated, and some of them have a little bit more, right? Now, these are all presented in grayscale for easy coloring. So if I were to switch over and I were to grab something like this, for example, I could, again, that same hexadecimal code, I could put that in here, and you can see I could build out like a rounded kind of shape here at the end. Also, you know, there's lots of different shapes, and you can also do the same kind of thing with these and create some sort of conglomerate of different shapes together to create pretty much whatever you want. But we also have these squares, which these are actually, if I were to pull this out here for you, kind of large, but they're also, and I'm just going to duplicate this, seamless. So they fit together perfectly, which means that we can use these, let me just delete them, as fill elements and have complete control over their shape. And so this is a really great way for us to kind of do this. Now we could do this with like wood or whatever material that we would want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off with the rectangle tool, and I'm actually going to use my stroke, because you see most of the images that I create, I always have like a line around them. So to kind of imitate that, I'm just going to zoom in here and make it roughly about the same size as that. And then I'm going to switch over to my stroke element, and I'm going to grab this, and we're going to drop this right into my fill. Now I don't have to worry about the color elements, because I can adjust that after the fact. So we don't have to worry about that too much here. Now I could, in fact, put this in, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna, because I want to be able to adjust those colors as freely as I wish. And so all I'm going to do is drag out a rectangle here of this. I think we're going to do it. I think we'll do it on this layer. Well, let's actually, you know what? Let's create our own layer for this. Is this not going to work for me? Might have to close this down and reopen it, which is no problem. So let's go over into here. Again, I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to make this approximately the same size as these. And I can also make sure that it's the same color, because it's not quite black. And then I can switch over to my fill element. We're going to drag and drop this right in here. And then I'm just going to drag out like a rectangle, And you can see that stroke is going to work really well for whatever it is that I want to do here. Now, what I can do is let's switch over to my ellipse tool, and I'm going to go to the subtraction mode. I want to make this curved inwardly over here. So what I can do is I can snap to the grid here, or I can start from about this circle here, which is pretty much in the middle. And as I pull this out, I can use my Alt key to make it come out something like this. And I'm just gonna, kind of eyeball this and make a nice little curved element right there. Now what I can do is I'm going to switch over to my line tool, still in the subtraction mode. And I'm going to just make this a little bit angular. So I'm going to hold down Control to snap to the grid. And I'm just going to like snap down to here. Cut that off. And I'm going to do the same from here. And here, I'm just going to delete these. And that's a pretty good shape for me. I think that that's going to be fine. If I want to make this more rounded, I certainly could, but I don't have to. And yeah, I think that that works pretty well. Now I can switch over to my edit fill area over here, and I can start to play around with some of the colors. I think I might actually want to make it a little bit, I have a lot of this coppery kind of tone going on here. So I think I'm going to change it. I'm going to make it a little bit less, a little bit more like this. And I think I'm actually going to change, I'm going to make it a little bit wider than my chassis as well. So I can just come back into here. I think we could grab this and maybe bring it out to something like here. And then the same here. And let's do something like that. Nice. Now, when I come back into my painting area over here, I can take this and any sort of parameters that I've set up on this, I can grab this and it will match that. You see how it changed the color of that? So any color adjustments that I make inside of the fill edit area, I can then pick up and use over and over again. So I wanted to add to this, for example, now I'm in the subtraction mode, but if I wanted to add elements to this, I certainly could. I think I might even actually change this a little bit. Maybe we'll make this a little bit more angular like this. Yeah, I think that that works a little bit better. Line this up a little bit more. Yeah, plowing. We could put like a big, one of those. What were they called it? Like the cow catchers on trains. Yeah. So I think if we come back down into here, let's get rid of those. We don't need those. And now I can build out some additional kind of elements here, right? I'm gonna create like a little bit of a dashboard in through here. So I'm gonna go and the steering mechanism. So I'm gonna go back into the steampunk. Decorations here. And I'm going to grab some of these elements and I'm going to start to put this stuff together as well. I think we'll do some stuff underneath it first. Maybe we'll do it over to the side a little bit. And we have all of these other painting layers down here that we can put some stuff underneath as well. So let's add in some additional kind of stuff here. Yeah, let's put it this way. Different controls and whatnot. And I think what we'll do is we'll just do a couple of things along the sides here, like maybe some shapes here. And that will help, kind of create the rest of like the body, which I'm going to kind of have it stream from underneath. We'll have to maybe adjust where this kind of connects here and how it does it. I think it'll be fine. Because I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll just bring something like this over. We can get rid of that one to be something like that. We might change this a little bit, make it a little bit more. Yeah, I think something like that. We could even put in maybe like a little windshield here. What do you think? Or should we have it all open? We'll add in our shadows, which is going to help sell this shape here a little bit. Kind of line this up with some of these things. What do you guys think? Windshield or no? And we can come back here. We have this all set up. So what I'm actually going to do is this is our kind of control area over here. And then this is this element. So I think what we'll do is on this layer, well, actually, let's create a new painting layer. And we're going to add in a little bit of a shape here, I think. We might even want to do it. Yeah, goggles. So if we build out, and what I'm actually going to do on this is let's. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll bring this down. We'll put this in underneath here a little bit. And then we can drop it down to something like here, or even all the way down like this. Yeah, I think we put it here. And we kind of follow it along like this. And we can add some elements to it, right? So I think we'll go to here and let's go to add. And I'm going to do something like this to round the edge just a little bit. And you can see how much fun you can kind of have with like creating these shapes, right? Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what we can actually do is now on this mode here, we can just duplicate this. We can go into our layers tab and we can flip it. And then we can just move it down into the correct position below, right? So we have a mirrored image of it. And I think we might want to just move it over a little bit, something like that. Yeah. And now we'll create, I think I might even want to expand the engine, make it a little bit like larger. What do you guys think? Or do you think that that's plenty good? Hopefully it'll be fast. So now underneath, we can create our skis. And I think what we'll do with that, let's go back into our industrial art package. Look at some of this stuff. Yeah, I'm thinking I like that. So let's grab these. And again, I'm going to make them a little bit redder so it kind of goes along with it. Let's rotate it. I think we'll actually do it this way. Or maybe we'll do one that is angled like this. Yeah, something that gives us a little bit more well, I guess that wouldn't even really be seen on this side, huh? We might need to build a little extra stuff over here. Let's go back and let's look at some of the other ones. We might be able to use something like this. Yeah, I think I actually want to throw in maybe something like this in the in our little creation here too. On that side. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. Help fill in that gap a little bit. I think what we can do is let's just look for a let's do like a metal fill. Let's see what we got here. Hmm. What about if we did, you know what I think I should do is build it and export it, and then we can just throw it on there. Yeah, why don't we do that actually? So I think what I'll do in right now is start to add in some shadows and then export this. And then we can add in those additional elements. So yeah, why don't we do it that way? I do want to do one more thing here. I want to grab this board again. Because this is here. I'm going to do it on this layer, and I'm going to do like that. Let's make the width like this. And I also want to do it here. And then I think on like here, what I am going to do is I'm going to grab one of like this guy. Let's go down onto this layer. Like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Now we can go into here. Let's grab this and do some shadows on this, and then we'll export it. So we can go in and start to do some of this stuff on different layers here. So I'm going to lower down this opacity quite a bit. We'll do some like these larger kind of shadows. You can see how well that kind of helps separate those particular layers. So you might wonder what is a good way to do some nice kind of gradient shadows on this stuff. And so first thing I'm going to do though is let's go down. I'm going to do a little bit here. And I'm poking out from underneath there. Like that. And I'm going to do on here, I'm going to make this very long. And on this one up here, I'm actually going to do a fill of this. I'll show you how it's going to work here. Perfect. And so up here, let's create a new painting layer. And I am going to go into here. I'm going to change this to be this. And I'm going to, I don't have to be quite as exact but I'm going to basically create the same fill shape as what is here. So all I have to do is do it kind of rougher, but I don't want to have a stroke on it. So we're going to turn that off. And so I can just kind of come in here and do this. Oh, we don't want it to have, we want to have a new one. So you have all your parameters set up correctly. And now what I can do is I can grab this and we can lower down, we can make that darker, lower down the opacity, or I could do it fade from here. And we can also use our control to scale it so that we have a, right? So if we wanted to do it on the end here like this, and however dark we want to make it, we can do this. I think we'll do it this way. Or maybe we'll do it like from one side, something like that. And we can make it as large as we need to get the effect that we want. Oh, thanks so much. And that's a really easy way for you guys to, you don't have to worry about much really. You can kind of just let the shape dictate some of that fade. And that's a pretty cool looking mechanism that we've kind of created there. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back over into here and I'm going to do some highlights on this as well. I'm going to do it on the same layer here. And there is a little bit of a bug when you use a fill. When you go back to using a stamp, it doesn't seem to work properly. And so all you have to do is close this down and then reopen it. And you can see how you can really start to create these shapes, right? Like these a little bit more believable shapes. Great. I think that that's good enough. We'll export this and then we're going to delete all this stuff and we're going to build our ski and then we're going to put those on here and then we'll add it to our environment. So let's do this as a PNG and I'm going to do SP. And we'll save that. And I'm just going to make sure that it's saved before I delete this stuff properly. So we're going to go into our campaign. We're going to refresh it. And here it is. And now I can just grab all of this stuff and delete it. And you can see here we have our full our sled, our body of the sled body here. Now the next thing we're going to do is, and you don't have to do things like per size or whatnot, because you can always adjust that as you add it to these images. So I'm just going to find something that I'm going to work well with, right? Like it's going to work good here. Let's do like let's see what we got here. Something like this might work for part of it. This might work, or oh yeah, this will be pretty good. Now I'm going to do the reason why I'm going to do it this way is because I'm going to do a little bit of a different kind of technique here. Normally this would be a brush, right, which I would just lay out, which I could certainly do that, but I want to have some control over the shape of the end. So I'm actually going to put it in as a fill, and I'll show you why I'm going to do it that way. So I can come in here, let's do a rectangle, and I am going to do it with a stroke as well, right? So I'm going to make this a bit smaller and switch this over to fill, and I'm going to drag this in here with our rectangle. We're just going to drag out a shape maybe like this, right? And then I can come in here and let's scale that up some. I think to something like this. And now what I'm going to do is, I think what we'll do is I'm going to round these edges off at the end here. So I think the easiest way to do that is with the ellipse tool, and we're going to add. And so what right here, what we're going to do is first we need to grab this again because we've changed some of the dynamics of it, right? And what we're actually going to do is I'm going to get pretty close to the somewhere like in here, the middle area, and I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm just going to drag this out and get this pretty close to something like that. Let's come down to the end down here, do something similar. And again, you don't have to be super, we can adjust this after the fact, so you don't have to be very too worried about some of this stuff. Because what I can actually do is like this stuff, I can just delete this and we can, I think that this will be fine. We can move this out. Now I know that this changed and we can move that back in a moment, and we'll do the same up here. We can get rid of this stuff. And we'll just, tidy this up a little bit. It doesn't have to be exact, like I said. It just has to be generally kind of what we're looking for. And then come over here and see we can move this back. And we'll go down here and adjust some of this stuff. I think we'll, let's delete this one so that we can have this a little bit more even. And I'm just going to enlarge it one more time. Yeah, something like that. And I think that that's going to work pretty good for us. And I'm going to use the grid to line up some of this stuff so that we can make it a little bit better here. Even this up a little bit, and we'll snap these out to the yeah, that's pretty good. I'm just going to move it over ever so slightly so that it's a little bit more lined up there. And now I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow to it before I export it. And I'm not going to be too worried about this one, so I'm just going to stamp it here. And we'll do RGB. We'll make that nice and dark. And I'm going to make this very narrow here. I'm just going to do something like this, and then a little bit on the other side too. And then I'll export this as a PNG. And call this one E. Come back into our campaign here, and we'll refresh. There it is. And now we can delete this, right? So all we have to do now is we go to here. We can just drag and drop that right out there. And we can grab this guy. And now I'm going to make some adjustments to it, right? So we're going to create a painting layer. We're going to put it underneath here. I'm going to change this. I'm going to make it a bit longer. So let's make it narrower. Yeah, something like that. I'm going to hold down Control and snap to the grid system here. And then I think what we'll do is we'll build a little bit of a lattice system, or some sort of system by which that it's connected here a little bit. And then we'll do, I think we'll go back into our steampunk vehicles. And I think these will work really well for us. I think that one needs to be moved up a little bit, so I can just come into here and we can grab all of this stuff. And then if we have to adjust any of these individually, we can. But I think that's pretty good. Yeah, lift kit. And now what we can do is export this whole thing. Looks like it's a little bit off on certain elements here. Let's just see if we can. Guess we do need to bring this in down a little bit. We don't have to be too exact, but we'll just kind of make it fairly close so that it seems pretty accurate. And now we'll export this whole thing. And now we can close this down. We can go back into here and go into our campaign. That's where I've saved it. And we're going to refresh this. Now back to our frozen lake. And we can now add this in. We have some effects layers that we have going on here. We have our shadows. So I'm actually just going to grab this guy and just drop him right in here. Something like this. You can see that this is going to be a bit bigger than we probably want for our scene. And I'm going to drop this down in underneath all of that stuff so that we get all of that environmental elements. This is like these kind of things. So, but our shadows and whatnot, we might want to have it underneath. If not, we can put it right on top. And then if we go into our layer here, we can just shrink this guy down to whatever is appropriate for our scene. We might even want to put this above the adjust colors because we kind of did some stuff there. And we have total control over it. We can rotate it and add in all of these different elements and whatnot. So if you ever drag and drop something into your scene, but you want it to have some additional kind of painted elements on it, that's not a problem whatsoever. We can create a new painting layer, and then we can group all of this stuff together in a folder. So we can grab this stuff and drop it in here, and this will act all as one thing. So let's say, for example, if I want to do like a little bit of a shadow underneath, and we'll lower this down, and I'm going to make this quite transparent here. And we might want to make this quite oblong. And now, if we were to interact with this, we can move this around now as a unit here, right? We don't want to do that. We want to do it like here. So you have, basically you've added this in, but you could also add that stuff in your export feature as well. And let's add in some animation to it, right? So we could do like, Maybe we'll lower down that opacity as well. And do some cool stuff like that. The great way about doing it in this type of fashion, right, building up all of these different elements, and it might be a little bit more time consuming, but you spend a little bit extra time on these little elements, but then you have them saved for whenever you need them again. So if I were to want to build something like this again, if I go back into some of these elements here, I can just build like cars and steampunk machines super fast now. Yeah, yep, exactly. And again, if I want to interact with all of this stuff together, I totally can. Even the animated elements. Yeah, you can totally do that as well. I like to copy that stuff out and do that a lot as well. Yeah, exactly. Smash through the ice. Which we could do that super easy if we went into our winter art pack. We have a bunch of pre-made things for like broken ice. Boom, done. One click. Right through the ice. It is pretty fun just to kind of mess around and make these elements, though. Environments. Because then you can just have that GM visible or hide them, and then boom. All right, guys, do you have any questions, or is there anything else that you would like me to talk about before we start to close this down for the day? Yeah, fireball. Or maybe the engine explodes. Yeah, have a happy new year, all. Thanks so much for joining me at the end of the year here. I really appreciate it. And here's to another great year of Fantasy Grounds as well. No spoilers, but there is some pretty exciting stuff coming around the corner. So I'm not at liberty to give you guys any spoilers, but be on the lookout because very cool stuff happening. There's some new dice that'll be coming your way soon that I've all finished up on. New dice packs. I'm going to be continuing over the next a couple of art releases, some of the steampunk stuff, and then we'll be going into some other areas as well. Lots of new, lots of great stuff coming out. Many new cool features in the art area as well. So very, very excited about it. All right, guys. Well, this is winding it down for our yeah, I would like to do some more with the dice stuff, but the implementation that we have right now, we're always working on expanding it. So hopefully we do get some moving bits going on there and some other cool stuff for the future. That would be great. I would love that as well. Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. As I said, thanks for checking this out most Saturdays when I'm here, and a great year for Fantasy Grounds. It's been awesome. And here's to the next one, everyone. So we'll see you guys this next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And then we run, 2 or 3 hours or so, depending on what we're doing. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much, and we will see you guys all next time.